Akihabara, Tokyo, along the Yamanote line. Hello and welcome. Yes, today we are in Akihabara. Akihabara is known as the Electric Town because of Radio Town and Denpai Kaigan, which is under the track of, I think it's not the Yamanote line, it's maybe the Zobu line. This was before the internet. But today these shops still exist. And on my day of visit, there were not all open, only a few shops were open. You can still see them. Um, First of all, what I have to say, I am not a Akihabara fan. However, I will try my best to give it a fair review. First of all, don't start your day before 11 a.m. because otherwise you're sitting in cafes and waiting for the shops to open. And I went to Radio Kaigan, Don Quixote, of course, to the Radio Town, and I just saw the adult shop from outside. I have been inside before, but there's nothing what you can film. It's, as it says, an adult shop. But it has, I think, 8 or 9 floors, which are interesting. This map is from the official Akihabara tourist board, and it shows where I went on that day. I believe if you come to Japan and you want to buy an electric appliance in Japan, let's be a rice cooker, a camera, or a computer, I personally think the best is to go to Yodobashi Camera or Big Camera. This is my feeling and my advice. My personal favorite is Yodobashi Camera, and I myself bought my camera, my computer, and several rice cooker there. What happened in Akihabara, there every store tells you tax free. However, if you keep the receipt, you can get usually your tax back at the airport. Of course, you have to be a little bit earlier at the airport, but then you can get your tax back. And since you're shopping in Japan, as far as I know, I think everything over a certain amount, you will get the tax back. In addition, when you re-enter your home country or your country of residence, you have to pay the consumption tax. For example, I think back in 2015 or 16, I bought a computer at Yodobashi Camera, and I got my tax back because I had a residence in New Zealand. But when I came to New Zealand, I had to pay consumption tax there, or import tax, because which is different between Japan and New Zealand. In Japan, the consumption tax is 10%. In New Zealand, it's 15%, so I have to pay more. However, at that time, I compared the prices in Japan and in New Zealand, and it was still cheaper for me to buy the computer in Japan. So I bought it in Japan. I think I got, I can't really remember, but warranty was also, everything was the same. So there was a big advantage for me to buy a computer. I bought also a Sony camera here in Japan, but the camera was much, much cheaper. But my whole manual is in Japanese. Well, on the internet you can get it in English or in German in my case, and I can read kanji. Not all of them, but basically I knew. But however, I bought my Sony camera, for example, at the Sony store in Ginza. There are many advantages also for me to buy either at Yodobashi Camera or in Ginza at the Sony store. For example, Yodobashi Camera, you can collect points. Now, I'm not so sure if you can collect points if you're a foreigner, but definitely, for example, you buy your camera for whatever amount of money, 200,000 or 300,000 yen, and then you get points at Yodobashi Camera, and you can buy maybe your lens or a bag or something like this, because you get a big amount of points there. So this is my advantage when I go to Yodobashi Camera. Why I bought my lenses at the Some of my photo equipment I bought at Sony store at Ginza, but I cannot really remember the advantages at that time, but it was cheaper for me to buy it at the Sony store. If you want to buy something, you know how much it costs in your home country, and then you go and buy it. And so I usually don't buy at stores like Akihabara. I don't go in these smaller shops. I always go into the big shops. I have just better experience with this. I don't know. I buy sometimes used items, but even there I make my research before, and then I go to 2 or 3 shops, see what I found, and then most of the time I go back to the big shops, because there is very seldom a big amount what I can save. I think I had it with the lens, with this lens what is on this camera, and I could save 25,000 yen, which is a lot. But when it came back, the previous owner who used it and all this, if you have almost new second-hand lenses, the price differences was only a few thousand yen in total. Because even Sony store gives you discount. Every month, if you subscribe to the newsletter, you get some discounts here and there, and then you can apply it online, and then sometimes you buy just online or at the store. So this is where I come from when you're a tourist and you come from overseas. Therefore, I usually don't go to Akihabara, because Yodobashi camera or big camera you can find, I think in the Kanto area, which Kawasaki and Yokohama belongs to. There are 15 Yodobashi camera stores. Shinjuku has also a Yodobashi camera store. Maybe there's also big camera. I'm not so sure about it in the moment. But for electronics, to buy them, to be really sure, not that you come back to your home country and the things are not working. And for example, if you buy a rice cooker, you can ask that Yodobashi camera that they have a model for your country, because Japan has 100 volt, and for example Germany has 220, and I think New Zealand was 200 or something like this. So you have to really look out for this, what is the difference, and I always do the research before, because it's always a big amount of money you spend or consider to spend. So I want to make sure when I come back I am comfortable with what I bought, and I can use it immediately in my kitchen, or like the camera, or so therefore I don't think there is a big advantage for Akihabara to go to Akihabara to buy electronics. I think you can get it at Shinjuku or also in Shibuya. So I wouldn't go only for this to Akihabara, my personal opinion. But as Radio Town says, it is specialized in radios, and so maybe there's an advantage. There are some old models and you need some parts and you can't find it on the internet, and then yeah, of course, go there. Generally speaking, Akihabara has changed a lot because of the internet, and it is also called Otaku Town. Otaku is the Japanese word for a person who is consumed by his interests, like particularly in manga, anime, video games, or computer. I wouldn't call myself otaku. Also, I love photographing, I love doing videos, and I love every electric gadget. I buy myself a Raspberry and want to find out how to program everything. All these things I love, especially when I have the time, I do it. I'm interested in everything with electronics. However, I'm not an anime or manga fan. I'm not somebody who is collecting cards. I think this was a hobby of mine when I was 6 or 7 years old. We had these little cards what we can buy at the shop in Germany, and then we posted it, sticked it in our sticker book. I don't do this anymore. I think it's a child's game. The same as video games. I'm not a person for video games. Anime and manga, yes, some I like, some I don't like. I don't watch specific anime or manga. My husband loves manga. The last movie I watched was The Boy and the Heron. I loved it. I watched it in Japanese. It was a little bit hard to understand. It was last year when I went to Japanese school and I went with my classmates. And I thought on that day, let's go to Radio Kaigan and see what they have. I was bored to death, to be quite honest. Ghibli, what they had at the fourth floor, and a little bit more up, were all the figurine from Totoro and all this other stuff. But for this, I would go to Ghibli Museum. I wouldn't go to Akihabara. And they had, I mean, how old is Totoro? 20 years, 30 years? I don't know. So I think you can find this figurine everywhere in Tokyo. There are specific shops from Ghibli, even in Kamakura, where you can buy this. So all the salesperson I asked for the poster of The Boy and the Heron, they said I have to go to Ghibli. So yeah, so I didn't get it. So I can order it over eBay or somewhere else from the internet. So I couldn't get it there. Well, and what I found is these dolls, which are super duper expensive, anime dolls. But I have to say, being a woman and I love to play with dolls, I was very interested. I like them. I like these dolls. But personally speaking, I thought they are over the top expensive. So if you're into dolls, maybe that's something where you want to go. And it was the only interest I could find. But I said, oh yeah, okay, I like it. So I went around. You were allowed to do photos, so I photographed later. And yeah, that's it. There were 2 or 3 shops in Radio Kaigan with dolls, and I really think they were nice. Another thing, I went after that through Radio Town and then in the direction to Don Quixote. Don Quixote has a mega store at Shibuya, so you don't need to go to Akihabara for Don Quixote. The only perk for Don Quixote in Akihabara would be AK48. This is this girls group where I think 48 girls are in it and they are dancing and so on. And on the 8th or 9th floor, they have shows. On the day I went, there was no show and there was no schedule. I felt it was a little bit tourist trappy. And then another perk for Don Quixote was under the performance store there was a cafe. It calls it's an internet cafe, and it was promoted as at home. A lot of very old guys were going there. I thought I personally thought it was a little bit borderline. I wouldn't go there. It was a long queue also, so nothing but where I would say no, I want to do that. Yeah, and last but not least was the maid cafes, which were promoted on the street. Years back, you could photograph these girls. Today, you have to ask them, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what happened. They are now really, they don't want you to photograph them. And even if you go to the maid cafes, they want extra money to photograph them. And to be quite honest, and I don't want to talk down to them, but they were between borderline disgusting. Usually I like maid uniforms and it's very cute. Back in 2006 when I first came to Japan, I was really cute. Also cute girls on the street. I didn't have the feeling it was dirty or anything, but in Akihabara I had a different vibe. First of all, the girls were heavily overweight. I know I shouldn't say it, but that's the fact. And they didn't look very clean. No makeup on. Yeah. I wouldn't go there, my personal opinion. I have been with my friend from Spain to Shibuya last year. It was a very cute cafe, and maybe I would go Shibuya rather than Akihabara. I don't think that Akihabara promotes maid cafes and otaku culture. But what I saw at Radio Kaigan, and I think Akihabara is more a tourist trap than anything else in Tokyo. Yeah, and then there is the Kanda Shrine. On the day I went, it was super cold. I didn't want to go to just another shrine this time. And for this shrine, I think the best time is to visit when the Kanda festival is, which is in May. If you go alone, okay, maybe Akihabara is a good thing, but if you go with family, your wife, we women can go over to Odakyu or any other fashion stores and department stores, and you can go to the site of Yodobashi Kamara. And between, in Shinjuku, the Yodobashi Kamara is in flat buildings. And between there are restaurants, which has a really Japanese feeling to it. And little shops where you can find competitors. So not only Yodobashi Kamara, used photoshops and other things. So I like this. I find these towns, Akihabara and Ikebukuro, very much for people who are always indoors, who do not have a real life. They live in a different universe. And therefore, I cannot relate to it, and therefore I wouldn't recommend Akihabara. If you come all the way from the US or from Europe and spending your time in Akihabara, I think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Absolutely. There are so much better places in Tokyo where you can go. And never forget, if you go in Tokyo to one station, it takes you half a day. And you walk a lot, at least 15 to 20,000 steps. So you always need sport shoes. And after that, you go, let's say Shibuya. You will be exhausted. Shibuya alone, or Tokyo Station. Tokyo will be in 2 weeks on this channel. Tokyo Station will be, especially for photographers, there are so many things to photograph. Akihabara, on the other hand, I think I would be interested in photographing Akihabara at night, and I might do also a series about this. You can book photo tours. I'm not a good photographer, but I love photographing, but you can book photo tours in Tokyo, and I think that's interesting. Then Akihabara might be interesting. It could be a good, because they have so many old and new together, and the lights and the light up of all the manga figurine, I think that might be interesting. And then ask one of the maids and give them some money if you find a pretty one, and let them pose. What I liked is the food. So I could find in the 9th floor a really nice yakiniku restaurant, and I could sit at the windows and watch could see whole Akihabara in front of me, or the station at least, and McDonald's on the one side, and there's something. I like this. I like food. I like to sit indoor. I'm not a fan of street food. And and there is another good food street just beside Yodobashi Kamara. You can have soft cream with kinoko. Kinoko is roasted rice flour, which is my absolute favorite. I love to eat it, but it's not everybody's taste. Well, maybe you can try. And then just opposite this store is the Kamakura noodles. It's also a chain. And you get basically Italian noodles with the taste of Japan. So sometimes they offer even noodles with wasabi, which I think it's really unique. What else they have? They had something. They have this pancakes with strawberry and cream. Oh, I love that. Yeah, and that's it for today. I hope you liked it. Was lots of details. Yeah, and I see you next week with Kanda Station along the Yamanote line. I see you then, and don't forget to like my video, subscribe if you like this channel and this content, and I see you next week. Bye!